Professor Zixtal stood in front of his classroom on the peaceful planet, Kepler 442b. His 4 eyes sparkled with excitement as he looked at his students. Today was special. Today, the first human would join their class about alien biology. Classroom was full of different alien species. There were the crystal-like Zephyrians, who looked like living diamonds. Their bodies were clear, and they made soft ringing sounds when they moved. The Nebulans were like floating clouds of colored gas. They changed colors based on their feelings. The Verdani looked like walking trees with leaves that rustled when they talked. All of these alien students had heard scary stories about humans and their home planet Earth. They called Earth a death world because it was so dangerous. On Earth, acid water fell from the sky as rain. The air was made of oxygen and nitrogen, which could hurt most aliens. The gravity was so strong it could crush many space creatures. Class, please welcome Jake Martinez from the famous death world Terra, Professor Zixtal said as the door opened with a hiss. The alien students all moved back in fear. They had heard that humans were the most dangerous creatures in the galaxy. Humans came from a world where everything tried to kill them every day. Jake walked into the room. He looked normal for a human, not too tall, not too short. He had brown hair and friendly eyes. He was carrying a small metal container that was warm to the touch. Jake smiled at everyone. "Hey, everyone," Jake said in a happy voice. "Thanks for letting me study here. This is going to be really fun." The aliens could not believe what they saw. Jake did not look tired or scared. Most creatures from other planets needed many days to get used to new places. They usually slept a lot or moved very slowly. But Jake looked awake and ready to learn. Krista, a Zephyrian student in the front row, watched Jake carefully. Her crystal body was ringing with worry. She whispered to the student next to her, "How is he so awake? Should he not be sleeping to save energy?" Professor Zixtal started teaching about how different aliens used energy. He kept looking at Jake with curious eyes. The human was writing notes very fast. Every few minutes, Jake would drink something from his metal container. He never looked tired or sleepy. "Now, class," Professor Zixtal explained, "most smart life forms have learned to save energy. We sleep for long times. We sit still and think. Some of us get energy from sunlight. But human energy use is still a mystery to us." Jake raised his hand. "Actually, Professor, I can tell you about that. But I should say that I am not the best example right now. I have not had my morning coffee yet." The room became very quiet. All the students looked at each other with worried faces. What was coffee? Coffee? Professor Zixtal asked. His translation machine had trouble with the word. "Yeah, you know, the liquid fuel that keeps us going," Jake said like it was normal. He took another drink from his container. "I am actually running low on energy without it. This is just my emergency backup supply." Emergency backup supply. The words made Professor Vorp, a Nebulan teacher, start releasing fear smells into the air. If this was emergency fuel, what did humans normally drink? The other students began to panic quietly. A liquid fuel? Humans ran on liquid fuel? What kind of creatures were they? Jake did not notice the fear around him. He was too busy looking at his notes and listening to the professor. To him, coffee was just coffee. It was something every human drank. He did not know that aliens had never heard of such a thing. Professor Zixtal tried to continue his lesson, but he kept thinking about what Jake had said. Liquid fuel. Emergency supplies. What did this mean? "Mr. Martinez," the professor said carefully, "could you tell us more about this coffee?" Jake looked up from his notes. "Sure. Coffee is great. It helps us wake up in the morning and stay alert during the day. Most humans drink it every day. Some people drink a lot of it." "How much is a lot?" asked Krista, her crystal body ringing with nervous energy. "Oh, maybe 4 or 5 cups a day. My friend Lisa back on Earth drinks like 8 cups. And my dad drinks coffee all day long at work," the alien students gasped. 8 cups of liquid fuel? All day long? What kind of monsters were humans? Professor Zixtel felt dizzy. "And this is normal for your species?" "Totally normal," Jake said with a smile. "We have coffee shops everywhere on Earth. People meet there to talk, work, or just hang out. We put coffee in ice cream, candy, and even some foods." The Verdani student named Leafy started shaking her branches in fear. Humans put their fuel in food? They mixed it with other things? "Mr. Martinez," Professor Zixtal said slowly, "what happens if humans do not have this coffee?" Jake thought for a moment. "Well, we get really tired. Some people get headaches. We cannot think as well. We move slower. It is pretty bad, actually." "So you need this substance to function?" the professor asked. "I guess you could say that," Jake replied. "I mean, we can survive without it, but we do not feel good. Most adults drink coffee every day." The classroom was now filled with the smell of fear from the Nebulan students. The Zephyrians were ringing like alarm bells. The Verdani were rustling their leaves in panic. These aliens had thought humans were dangerous because of their strong bodies and their deadly planet. But now they learned something much worse. Humans were dependent on some kind of chemical substance. They needed liquid fuel to think and move properly. Jake looked around at all the scared faces. "Is everything okay? You all look worried." Professor Zixtal tried to stay calm. "We are just very interested in learning about human biology, Mr. Martinez." "Cool," Jake said. "I love talking about human stuff. Coffee is probably not even the most interesting thing about us. Not the most interesting thing." The aliens looked at each other in terror. What else did humans do? The class ended soon after that. Jake packed up his things and headed to his next lesson. He waved goodbye to everyone and took another drink from his container. As soon as Jake left, the alien students started talking all at once. "Did you hear that?" Krista said, her crystal body flashing with worry. "They are addicted to some kind of chemical." 8 cups a day, whispered a Nebulan student. "How are they still alive?" "And they put it in their food," added Leafy. "Leaves shaking. The entire species is dependent on this substance." Professor Zixtal stood at the front of the class, thinking hard. He had invited Jake to study alien biology. But now it seemed like Jake was the most alien creature in the room. That night, Professor Zixtal called an emergency meeting with the other teachers. They needed to understand what they had learned about humans. This coffee substance could change everything they knew about the species from the Death World. Meanwhile, Jake sat in his room, talking to his friend Lisa on Earth through a video call. "How is alien school?" Lisa asked, holding her own cup of coffee. "Pretty fun," Jake said. The professor seemed really interested when I mentioned coffee. "I think I might have confused them a bit." "Did you tell them how much we drink?" Lisa laughed. "Just the basics." "I did not want to scare them on the first day." Lisa smiled. "Good thinking. Save the espresso and energy drinks for later." Jake laughed. 2. He had no idea that his simple mention of coffee had started a panic among the galaxy's smartest creatures. To him, it was just another normal day. After the class ended, Professor Zixtal hurried to call an emergency meeting. All the teachers at the school needed to hear about what Jake had said. The meeting room filled up quickly with worried alien professors. Professor Zixtal stood at the front of the room. His 4 eyes looked at each teacher as he spoke. "Friends, we may have made a big mistake about humans. Our student Jake Martinez told us something very scary today." The teachers all leaned forward to listen. Professor Vorp, the cloud-like Nebulan, was changing colors from blue to red with worry. Jake said that humans need something called coffee. To work properly, Zixtal continued, he called it liquid fuel. This may not be just words. It might be real. Dr. Florin, a tree-like Verdani who studied chemicals, rustled her leaves nervously. Professor, I got a small amount of this coffee. From Jake's container. I looked at what it is made of. The results are very bad. She turned on a big screen that showed the parts of coffee. Strange shapes and letters filled the screen. This liquid has lots of something called caffeine. This chemical would be poison to most species we know about. The room exploded with shocked voices. Teachers from different planets all started talking at once. Their various languages filled the air with worry. Are you saying humans need poison to work normally? Asked Professor Kell, whose metal body was sparking with stress. It gets worse, Dr. Florin said. I watch Jake all day. When his coffee gets low, he acts sick. He gets tired and grumpy. But when he drinks more coffee, he becomes awake and smart again. Professor Zixtal felt his stomach turn. By the stars. Above us ... they are addicted to poison. A whole species that needs drugs to live. At the same time, Jake was in his room talking to his friend Lisa on Earth. He had no idea about the panic he had caused. So how is space school going? Lisa asked while drinking her own coffee. Really good, Jake said. The aliens seem super interested in everything about humans. My professor got really excited when I mentioned coffee. I think they want to learn more about our culture. Lisa laughed. That is funny. Did you tell them about the good stuff yet? Not yet. I thought I would start simple. Oh, and I am almost out of my emergency coffee stash. Can you send me more? Already did, Lisa said with a smile. I sent you a big package yesterday. It has that Ethiopian coffee you like, plus some instant coffee just in case. Jake's face lit up with happiness. You are the best friend ever. I do not think these aliens understand how important coffee is to humans. Back in the teacher meeting, Dr. Florin had more scary news. I looked up information about humans on their internet. This coffee problem is much bigger than we thought. She showed pictures on the screen. There were images of huge coffee farms, big coffee shops, and machines that made coffee. Billions of humans drink this poison every day. They have whole businesses just for making and selling it. Billions? Professor Zixtal whispered. He felt like he might faint. Yes, and they have. Made it stronger, too. They have something called espresso that has even more caffeine in it. Professor Vorp's gas body started spinning fast with fear. A whole planet of creatures running on concentrated poison ... and they have turned it into big business. There is more, Dr. Florin continued. They put caffeine in other things too. Their chocolate has it. Their soft drinks have it. Even some of their medicines have caffeine. The teachers sat in shocked silence. They had thought humans were dangerous because they came from a deadly planet. Now they learned that humans had made themselves more dangerous by choice. What do we do? Asked Professor Kell. Should we tell the Galactic Council about this? Professor Zixtal thought hard. Not yet. We need to understand this better first. I want to study Jake more carefully. The next day, Professor Zixtal had a plan. He would watch Jake when the human did not have coffee. This would help him understand how bad the addiction was. Jake, the professor said after class, would you help us with a science project? We want to learn more about human bodies. Sure, Professor, Jake said happily. What do you need me to do? Just act normal. We will watch how you behave and measure things about your body. Jake agreed. He did not know that Professor Zixtal had secretly stopped his coffee package from Earth. The professor wanted to see what happened when a human could not get their drug. The first day went fine. Jake still had some coffee left and acted normal in class. He was awake, smart, and helpful to other students. He even helped Krista, understand a hard math problem, but Professor Zixtel was watching everything. He took notes about how much coffee Jake drank. He measured how fast Jake's heart beat. He watched how Jake's eyes moved and how he walked. Interesting, the professor said to himself. The human drinks exactly 4 containers of this substance each day. His body seems to expect it at certain times. On the second day, things started to change. Jake walked into class looking different. His hair was messy, and his eyes looked tired. He moved slower than before. "Good morning, class," Professor Zixtal said, starting his lesson about brain science. Jake fell into his chair with a heavy sigh. "Morning, Professor," he said in a quiet voice. The alien students watched in fear as Jake's behavior got worse. During the morning, he yawned many times. He could not pay attention to the lesson. At one point, Jake actually fell asleep while the professor was talking. Krista's crystal body was ringing with worry. During break time, she went to talk to Jake. "Are you broken, Jake? Should we call for help?" Jake rubbed his tired eyes. "No, I am just really sleepy. My coffee package from Earth is late, and I only have a little bit left. I will be okay when it gets here." Krista was shocked. The human was running out of fuel and was rationing what he had left. She immediately called Professor Zixtal. "Professor," Krista said through her communication device, "the human is saving his last fuel. He is running on emergency power only." Professor Zixtal's eyes went wide. He had wanted to study human withdrawal, but he did not want to hurt Jake. "How much fuel does he have left?" "He says maybe enough for one more day." The professor now faced a big problem. He wanted to learn about humans, but he also needed to keep Jake safe. What if humans really could not live without coffee? What if Jake got very sick? By the third day, Jake was in bad shape. He walked into class like a zombie from human movies. His eyes were red and tired. He could barely think straight. "Need ... coffee ... Jake mumbled during science class. His head was on his desk. "Please ... Just 1 cup ... double quotes. The alien students were terrified. This was clearly a human dying from lack of fuel. Professor Vorp started, releasing panic smells so strong that the air cleaning system turned on. Other teachers came to watch Jake. They had never seen anything like this before. The friendly, smart human had turned into a slow, tired creature that could barely talk. "This is worse than we thought," Dr. Florin whispered to Professor Zixtal. "Look at him. He is falling apart without the chemical." Professor Zixtal felt terrible. "I have to stop this experiment. The human is suffering too much." During lunch break, Professor Zixtal made a decision. He could not let Jake suffer anymore. Science was important, but keeping students safe was more important. "Jake," he said gently, "I need to tell you something. I stopped your coffee package to study how humans work. I did not know it would hurt you so much." Jake looked up with tired, red eyes. "You stopped my coffee? Professor, why would you do that?" "We are trying to understand how humans can use such dangerous chemicals. Coffee has poison in it that would kill most aliens." Jake laughed weakly. "Dangerous? Professor, it is just coffee. Humans have been drinking it for hundreds of years." "Just coffee?" Professor Zixtal's voice went very high. "Jake, caffeine is illegal on many planets. The amount in your coffee would be considered a weapon by most space governments." Jake stared at him for a moment, then started laughing even though he was very tired. "Professor, you think coffee is dangerous? Wait until you learn about energy drinks." "Energy ... drinks?" Professor Zixtal felt the room spinning around him. "Yeah, some of those have way more caffeine than coffee. And there are also pre-workout drinks that make you super energetic." Professor Zixtal immediately called Earth to get Jake's coffee package delivered fast. He could not let his students suffer anymore. A few hours later, a special fast ship arrived with Jake's package from Lisa. Jake opened it like it contained precious jewels. He carefully took out a bag of coffee beans and smelled them deeply. "Oh man, Ethiopian coffee," he said with the first real smile he had shown in days. "Lisa really knows how to help a friend." Jake used his small coffee machine to make his first real coffee in 3 days. The alien students watched like they were seeing magic happen. The first drink changed everything. In just a few minutes, Jake's eyes became clear. He sat up straight. His brain started working again. It was like watching a broken machine get fixed instantly. "Okay," Jake said, now fully awake and energetic. "What were we talking about with caffeine being dangerous?" The alien students looked at each other in shock. They had just watched a human go from almost dead to perfectly healthy just by drinking poison. Professor Zixtal knew that everything he thought about humans was wrong. News about the coffee incident spread quickly through the Galactic Educational Consortium. Within just a few days, alien scientists from all over the galaxy wanted to know more about human caffeine use. Professor Zixtal found himself at the center of attention. Scientists called him from distant planets. They all wanted to know about his research. His report about humans and coffee became the most read scientific paper in galactic history. "So let me understand this right," said Dr. Kelvin, a visiting scientist from the Andromeda Galaxy. "Humans choose to drink poison that makes their brains work faster?" "Not just choose to," Professor Zixtal replied. "It is part of their culture." Jake showed me pictures of coffee shops. These are special buildings where humans go just to drink caffeine. They meet friends there. They do business there. They even find romantic partners there. Dr. Kelvin's 3 heads all shook in disbelief. "They have built their social lives around consuming poison?" "Yes, and it gets stranger," Professor Zixtal continued. "They have different ways to make coffee stronger or weaker. They have created hundreds of different flavors." Jake had become famous among the alien teachers. They all wanted to ask him questions about human coffee habits. He sat in the research center, enjoying his coffee while alien scientists studied him. "Jake," Dr. Florin asked, her leaves rustling with curiosity, "how do humans learn to drink? Such strong chemicals?" "Well," Jake explained, "most of us start drinking coffee when we are teenagers or young adults. You start with small amounts and work your way up. Your body gets used to it slowly. How much coffee do you drink now?" asked Professor Vorp, his gas body swirling with interest. Jake thought for a moment. "I would say I am pretty normal. About 4 cups a day. My roommate back on Earth drinks maybe 6 or 7 cups. My grandmother could drink coffee right before bed and still sleep perfectly." The room became very quiet. Even the air recycling system seemed to pause. 6 to 7 doses of poison per day? Professor Zixtal whispered in horror. "Well, yeah." Jake continued, not noticing how scared the aliens looked. "And that does not count espresso shots or energy drinks. Oh, and we also put caffeine in chocolate, soda, tea, and ice cream." Dr. Kelvin had to sit down, even though his species rarely got dizzy. "Your entire food supply has poison in it?" he asked weakly. "I would not call it poison," Jake laughed. "We call it enhanced. Although we do make versions without caffeine for people who cannot handle it. There are humans who cannot process these chemicals?" Professor Zixtal asked with hope in his voice. "Oh, sure. Some people are sensitive to caffeine. They might feel shaky or have trouble sleeping if they drink too much." The professors looked at each other hopefully. Finally, proof that humans had normal reactions to dangerous substances. How much is too much for these sensitive people? Dr. Florin asked. Jake thought about it. "Maybe more than 2 or 3 cups of coffee? It depends on the person." The hope died in Professor Zixtal's eyes. Even the caffeine-sensitive humans could drink what other species would consider deadly amounts. Professor, Krista said, her crystal body ringing with worry, I think we need to understand something important. It is not just that humans drink caffeine. They seem to need more and more of it over time. What do you mean? Professor Zixtel asked. Well, Jake said he started with small amounts as a teenager. Now he drinks 4 cups a day. His roommate drinks even more. This suggests that humans build up resistance to the poison. The implications hit everyone at once. Not only did humans drink poison, but they needed stronger and stronger doses as time went on. Jake, Dr. Kelvin asked carefully, what happens to humans who drink caffeine for many years? Nothing bad, Jake said with a shrug. My dad has been drinking coffee for 40 years. My grandmother drank it every day until she died at age 95. She said coffee was one of the secrets to a long life. The alien scientists exchanged looks of pure terror. Long-term caffeine use actually helped humans live longer? There must be some negative effects, Professor Vorp insisted. Surely some humans get sick from all this chemical consumption? Well, Jake said, thinking hard, I guess some people get a little jittery if they drink way too much. And if you suddenly stop drinking coffee after years of use, you might get headaches for a few days. Headaches? Dr. Florin asked. That is all? Pretty much. Oh, and you feel really tired until your body adjusts. Professor Zixtel could not believe what he was hearing. The withdrawal symptoms from this deadly chemical. Or just tiredness and mild headaches? Jake, he said slowly, you mentioned energy drinks earlier. Can you tell us about those? Jake's face lit up. Oh man, energy drinks are crazy. They have way more caffeine than coffee. Some have 200 or 300 milligrams per can. How much caffeine is in your coffee? Dr. Kelvin asked, afraid to hear the answer. About 95 milligrams per cup, Jake replied. The scientists quickly did the math in their heads. Energy drinks had 3 times as much caffeine as coffee, which was already considered poison by galactic standards. Do humans drink these energy drinks regularly? Professor Zixtel asked. Some do. My friend Andy drinks 2 energy drinks every morning before work. My sister drinks them when she studies for tests. They are pretty popular. 2 energy drinks. That was 600 milligrams of pure caffeine. The amount that could kill most alien species. Are there any limits on who can buy these energy drinks? Dr. Florin asked hopefully. Not really. You have to be 18 in most places, but that is about it. You can buy them at any store. Professor Vorp's gas body started changing from blue to deep red with stress. Children can access these chemical weapons? I would not call them weapons, Jake laughed. They are just drinks. Although parents do not usually let little kids have them, because they might get too hyper. Too hyper. That was the only concern. About giving children industrial-strength stimulants. The research session continued for hours. Each new piece of information made the aliens more amazed and terrified. They learned that humans put caffeine in pain medicine. They put it in weight loss pills. They even made caffeine gum that people could chew. Let me make sure I understand, Dr. Kelvin said at the end of the day. Humans have taken a chemical that would be considered a controlled substance on most planets, and they have built their entire society around it? I guess you could put it that way, Jake said. But it is not like we are addicted or anything. We just really like coffee. The aliens all stared at him. Jake had just described the exact definition of addiction while saying he was not addicted. Jake, Professor Zixtel asked gently, what would happen if all the coffee on Earth suddenly disappeared? Jake thought about this seriously. That would be really bad. I think society would probably collapse. People would not be able to work properly. Students could not study. Nothing would get done. And this does not sound like addiction. To you? Dr. Florin asked. Well, when you put it like that, ... Jake started to look a little worried. I guess maybe we are a little dependent on it. A little dependent. Jake had just described the complete breakdown of human civilization without coffee, and he called it a little dependent. That evening, the alien scientists met without Jake. They needed to discuss what they had learned. Colleagues, Professor Zixtal said, I think we have discovered something very important about human biology. They have not just adapted to their dangerous planet. They have adapted to make themselves more dangerous. It is like they weaponized their own metabolism. Dr. Kelvin agreed. They consume poison to enhance their performance. And they have industrialized it, Dr. Florin added. This is not just individual humans making bad choices. Their entire species has organized around chemical enhancement. Professor Vorp's gas body was swirling with deep thoughts. Do you think they know how unusual this is? Jake seemed surprised that we found it strange. I think that is the most frightening part, Professor Zixtal replied. To humans, this is completely normal. They cannot imagine life without chemical stimulants. The meeting went late into the night. The alien scientists tried to understand how an entire species could be so dependent on drugs that they did not even realize it was unusual. Meanwhile, Jake was in his room, video calling Lisa again. How are the alien studies going? Lisa asked, drinking her evening coffee. Really interesting, Jake said. The professors are super curious about human biology. They ask a lot of questions about coffee. Did you tell them about espresso yet? Lisa asked with a grin. Not yet. I think I might be overwhelming them with basic coffee information first. Probably smart. Save the good stuff for later. Jake had no idea that his simple honesty about coffee had changed how the entire galaxy thought about humans. The aliens now saw humans not just as survivors from a dangerous planet, but as a species that had turned chemical dependency into an evolutionary advantage. And tomorrow, Jake would continue his studies, completely unaware that he had become the most studied human in galactic history. The next morning brought unexpected visitors to the Galactic Educational Consortium. Ships from 12 different star systems had arrived overnight. Word about the human coffee discovery had spread faster than anyone expected. Professor Zixtal stood in the main conference room, looking at dozens of alien scientists who had traveled across the galaxy to learn about Jake's coffee habits. Representatives from the Galactic Health Organization were there. Military scientists from the Defense Council had come. Even economists who studied interstellar trade wanted to understand this human phenomenon. Colleagues, Professor Zixtal began. Thank you all for coming. What we have discovered about human physiology may change everything we know about intelligent life. Grand Admiral Kaz of the Galactic Defense Fleet raised one of his 6 arms. Professor, our military scientists are very concerned. Are you telling us that humans are naturally enhanced soldiers? Not enhanced, Dr. Florin corrected from her seat. They enhance themselves every single day with industrial quantities of stimulants. Dr. Healing Song from the Galactic Health Organization fluttered her wing arms nervously. This goes against every principle of biological safety we know. How is an entire species still alive while consuming toxic substances daily? That is what we are trying to understand, Professor Zixtal replied. Our human subject, Jake Martinez, treats this chemical dependency as completely normal. At that moment, Jake walked into the conference room. He had been invited to answer more questions, though he still did not understand why everyone was so interested in his coffee drinking. Good morning, everyone, Jake said cheerfully, carrying his usual cup of coffee. Wow, there are a lot of you here today. The room fell silent. Dozens of the galaxy's most important scientists stared at the human, who was casually sipping what they considered a chemical weapon. Jake, Professor Zixtal said gently, These scientists have come from all over the galaxy to learn about human coffee consumption. Really? Jake looked surprised. That is pretty cool. I did not know aliens were so interested in our drinks. Grand Admiral Kaz leaned forward with all 6 eyes focused on Jake. Human Jake Martinez, I must ask you directly. Does your species use caffeine to enhance combat performance? Jake nearly choked on his coffee. Combat? No, sir. We mostly use it to wake up in the morning and stay alert at work. Work? Dr. Healing Song asked. You consume combat stimulants to perform daily tasks? Well, I would not call it combat stimulants, Jake said, looking confused. It is just coffee. We drink it when we study, when we work, when we socialize. It is pretty much everywhere. The economic representative, a floating crystal being named Profit Calculator, spoke up. Human Jake, you mentioned that Earth has entire businesses built around caffeine distribution. Can you estimate the size of this industry? Jake scratched his head. I am not really sure about exact numbers, but coffee is huge on Earth. There are coffee shops on almost every street corner in cities. Big companies like Starbucks have thousands of locations worldwide. Thousands? Profit Calculator's crystal body flashed with amazement. How many humans visit these distribution centers daily? I guess millions? Maybe more? I really do not know the exact numbers. The room erupted in quiet conversations. Millions of humans visiting drug distribution centers every day. And they called them coffee shops. Dr. Healing Song raised a wing. Jake, you mentioned yesterday that humans put caffeine in many different products. Can you be more specific? Sure, Jake said, happy to help. There is coffee, obviously. Tea has caffeine too, but less than coffee. Chocolate has a little bit. Soda drinks like Coke and Pepsi have caffeine. Energy drinks have lots of it. Some pain medicine has caffeine. Even some shampoos and skin creams have caffeine now. Skin creams? Dr. Healing Song's voice went very high. Humans apply stimulants directly to their skin? Yeah, it is supposed to help with puffy eyes and stuff. My sister uses caffeine face masks. The Galactic Health Organization representative started making urgent notes. Humans were not just consuming stimulants, they were applying them topically as well. Grand Admiral Kaz had more military questions. Human Jake, do your armed forces use higher concentrations of caffeine? Actually, yeah, Jake said. Soldiers definitely drink a lot of coffee. My uncle was in the army, and he said they had coffee available 24 hours a day on base. Some military units use energy drinks too. How much caffeine do military personnel consume? The Admiral asked. Jake thought for a moment. My uncle probably drank 8 to 10 cups of coffee per day when he was deployed, plus energy drinks during long missions. 8 to 10 cups, plus energy drinks. The military representatives exchanged worried looks. And this enhanced their combat effectiveness? Admiral Kaz pressed. Well, it kept them awake during long missions, Jake said. Being alert is pretty important when you are trying to stay safe. Professor Zixtal realized they needed to understand the bigger picture. Jake, can you tell us about caffeine research on Earth? Do human scientists study its effects? Oh yeah, there are tons of studies about caffeine, Jake replied. Most of them say it is pretty safe in normal amounts. Some studies even say coffee might be good for you. Good for you? Dr. Healing Song sounded faint. Yeah, something about antioxidants and reducing disease risk. I do not really understand the science, but my doctor said my coffee habit is fine. The Galactic Health Organization had classified caffeine as a dangerous controlled substance. But human doctors were telling patients that consuming it was healthy. Doctor. Economics Prime, a robot scientist from the Trade Federation, had different concerns. Jake, If caffeine is so central to human function, what would happen to Earth's economy if the supply was interrupted? Jake looked worried for the first time that day. That would be really, really bad. I think the global economy would crash. People could not work effectively. Transportation would be affected because truck drivers drink coffee to stay awake. Even hospitals would have problems because doctors and nurses rely on caffeine during long shifts. So human civilization is dependent on continuous caffeine supply? Dr. Economics. 3 weeks had passed since the Great Coffee Revelation, and the galaxy was still trying to understand what it meant. Reports about human caffeine consumption had reached the highest levels of galactic government. Emergency committees were formed. Scientists from hundreds of worlds were studying human behavior. Professor Zixtal found himself famous across the galaxy. His research center was flooded with messages from alien scientists who wanted to visit Earth and study humans directly. But the Galactic Council had decided that direct contact with the human homeworld should wait until they understood more about this chemically enhanced species. Jake had become the most important human in space, though he still did not understand. Why, every day, new groups of alien scientists came to ask him questions. They wanted to know everything about human culture, especially anything involving chemicals or substances. On this particular morning, Jake sat in the main research center, surrounded by scientists from 20 different worlds. He sipped his coffee as usual, completely unaware that each sip was being carefully monitored by advanced alien instruments. Jake, said Dr. Mindstudy, a telepathic researcher from the Psi Collective, we have been analyzing human entertainment media from your planet. We found many references to other substances humans consume. Can you explain something called alcohol? Jake nearly spit out his coffee. Alcohol? Oh man, you guys are going to flip out about alcohol. The alien scientists all leaned forward with intense interest. There were more human enhancement substances? Alcohol is different from caffeine, Jake explained. Instead of making you more alert, it makes you feel relaxed and happy. Humans drink it to celebrate, to socialize, and sometimes just to unwind after work. Professor Zixtal's 4 eyes went wide. Humans consume depressant chemicals as well as stimulants? Well, yeah, Jake said like it was obvious. Beer, wine, whiskey, vodka. There are lots of different types of alcohol. Dr. Healing Song from the Galactic Health Organization started making frantic notes. Jake, how much alcohol do humans typically consume? It varies a lot, Jake said. Some people drink a beer or 2 with dinner. Others might have several drinks when they go out with friends. My dad has a glass of wine almost every night. Every night? Dr. Healing Song's voice cracked. Humans consume chemical depressants daily? Not everyone, but it is pretty common. Alcohol is legal for adults in most places on Earth. The alien scientists exchanged horrified looks. Not only did humans consume stimulants daily, but they also regularly use depressants. Is alcohol addictive like caffeine? Asked Dr. Brain Function from the Neural Research Institute. It can be, Jake admitted. Some people develop drinking problems, but most humans drink responsibly. Responsibly. The aliens had now learned that humans had developed social guidelines for safe consumption of mind-altering chemicals. Grand Admiral Kaz, who had stayed for the extended research, raised 2 of his arms. Jake, do human military forces consume alcohol? Not while on duty, Jake said. But soldiers definitely drink when they are off duty. It helps them relax after stressful situations. So human warriors used stimulants during combat and depressants afterward to recover. The military implications were staggering. Dr. Chemistry Analysis, a silicon-based researcher, had been studying Jake's blood samples. Jake, our tests show that your body processes both caffeine and alcohol very efficiently. How long have humans been consuming these substances? Alcohol has been around for thousands of years, Jake said. Ancient humans were making wine and beer before they had written language. Coffee is newer, maybe 1,000 years or so. Thousands of years. Humans had been chemically enhancing themselves for millennia. This explains so much about human history, Professor Zixtal muttered. Their rapid technological development, their aggressive expansion, their ability to adapt to any environment. Dr. Evolution's study from the Genetic Research Collective had been quiet, but now she spoke up. Jake, have these substances affected human evolution? Jake scratched his head. I am not really sure about that, but I know that some human populations are better at processing alcohol than others. People from certain regions can drink more without getting sick. So humans have actually evolved to better handle chemical consumption. Dr. Evolution's study asked in amazement. I guess so, Jake said. Plus, we have developed cultural practices around drinking. Rules about when and where to drink, how much is safe, that sort of thing. The aliens were learning that humans had not. Just developed chemical dependency. They had evolved both biologically and culturally to optimize their use of mind-altering substances. Jake, said Dr. Social Systems from the Cultural Analysis Department, are there other substances that humans consume for enhancement or pleasure? Jake thought for a moment. Well, there is chocolate. That has some caffeine and other chemicals that make people feel good. Tobacco has nicotine, though most people are trying to quit that because it is bad for your health. More chemicals? Dr. Healing's song looked like she might faint. And sugar, Jake continued. Humans love sugar. It gives us quick energy and tastes. Great, we put it in almost everything. Sugar is a drug too? Professor Zixtal asked weakly. Not exactly, but people do get addicted to it. There are whole industries built around making sugary foods and drinks. The alien scientists were now completely overwhelmed. Humans consumed stimulants, depressants, mild psychoactives, and addictive sugars. And they had built entire industries. Around all of them, Dr. Economics Prime had been calculating furiously. Jake, what percentage of human economic activity involves these enhancement substances? I really do not know the exact numbers, Jake said, but it is huge. Coffee, alcohol, chocolate, sugar, tobacco, those industries employ millions of people. Plus all the restaurants and bars and coffee shops. Millions of humans working in the chemical enhancement industry. The galaxy had never seen anything like it. One more question, said Dr. Future Prediction from the Strategic Analysis Center. Are humans developing new enhancement substances? Jake's face lit up. Oh yeah, all the time. There are new energy drink formulas coming out constantly. Scientists are working on better caffeine delivery systems. Some people are experimenting with things called nootropics to enhance brain function. Nootropics. Advanced cognitive enhancement drugs. The aliens were terrified to even ask what those were. Professor Zixtal stood up slowly. Jake, thank you for all this information. You have helped us understand human culture much better. After Jake left for his classes, the alien scientists sat in stunned silence for several minutes. Colleagues, Professor Zixtal finally said, I think we have been looking at this all wrong. We thought humans were dangerous because they survived on a death world. But the truth is much more complex. They have not just survived, Dr. Evolution's study agreed. They have systematically enhanced themselves using chemical substances for thousands of years. And they have built their entire civilization around it. Added Dr. Economics Prime got Grand Admiral Cause was the most worried. This makes humans far more dangerous than we initially thought. They are not just tough survivors. They are a species that has weaponized chemistry and turned it into culture. But they are also friendly, pointed out Dr. Social Systems. Jake is helpful, kind, and peaceful. Despite all this chemical enhancement, humans seem to be fundamentally social and cooperative. Professor Zixtal nodded. That may be the most remarkable thing about them. They have developed the ability to chemically enhance their performance, but they use it primarily for productivity and social bonding, not conquest. Dr. Healing Song had been reviewing her notes. We also learned that humans have developed safety practices around these substances. They understand the risks and try to minimize them. Should we report this to the Galactic Council now? Admiral Cause asked. Professor Zixtal thought carefully. Yes, but we need to present it correctly. Humans are not a threat to galactic peace. They are an example of successful chemical-biological integration. They could teach us a lot about enhancement technologies. Or, Dr. Economics Prime suggested, they could become valuable trade partners. Imagine if we could safely use human enhancement methods for appropriate species. The discussion continued late into the night. The alien scientists were beginning to see humans not as dangerous monsters, but as a uniquely successful example of controlled evolution. Meanwhile, Jake was in his room, video calling Lisa one more time. The aliens asked about alcohol today, Jake told her. I think I might have shocked them. Did you tell them about tequila shots? Lisa asked with a grin. God, no, Jake laughed. I think they would have called for military backup. What about? Explaining hangovers? Lisa, I think these aliens might actually die if they tried to understand hangovers. Neither Jake nor Lisa knew that their casual conversation about human drinking habits had just influenced galactic policy for the next 1,000 years. The aliens had finally understood the truth about humans. They were not monsters or supermen. They were a species that had learned to carefully use chemistry to enhance their natural abilities. And somehow, they had done it while remaining fundamentally decent people. It was perhaps the most remarkable achievement in galactic history. Professor Zixtal's final report to the Galactic Council would change how every species thought about enhancement and evolution.